We stand here in the midst of a tremendous economic crisis. What we hear when we go home every weekend is the pain of people who've lost their job, the fear of those who think they might be next, the confusion and frustration of having seen one administration seem to wreck the economy and the next not do enough to fix it. Well, like many Americans, I'm not satisfied. We can sit here tonight and blame the other side for letting the deficit go off the rails or helping to wreck the economy, but I'm not satisfied being judged by what the other side did. I want us to be judged by whether we get this economy back on track. I want to be judged by whether we have stepped up to the generational challenges that both parties have failed to address in the decades past. It's too easy in this town to focus on winning a debate or a legislative fight or a campaign by convincing people the other side is even worse. That's not a politics worthy of the American people. We've done a lot to stop the bleeding in the economy in the last year, but I'm not satisfied with us merely stopping the bleeding. We must have the healing and the rehabilitation, not just to get us back to where we were, but to an even stronger working and middle class than we've seen in the past few years, a more competitive American economy. A politics that doesn't just reward and lock in the status quo through corporate campaign contributions and ads, but rewards innovation and dares to think of what the next big thing can be, that can unleash again the American competitive by so much of the Washington Wall Street collusion that seems to reward what has been instead of what needs to be in this country. It's good to see that Wall Street has recovered and is above 10,000, but I'm not satisfied until we see that growth on Main Street. We see the job creation. We see jobs that are somewhere between $6 an hour and six figures for that vibrant middle class that's always been at the heart of this country. I'm a big believer in this president, and I'm a big believer in hope, but hope doesn't pay the mortgage. We have to deal with the banking crisis, the housing crisis. We have to look at the construction sector, education, and workforce development. I'm not satisfied with solutions that simply stabilize where we are or offer something a little bit better than what came before. We promise something better than that. I believe tomorrow night the President has an opportunity to give an address to this nation that gives an honest reading of the state of this union, both its unbelievable strengths, its unprecedented hunger for innovation, but also the reality of its economic suffering, particularly with our middle class and working class families that continue to suffer under monopolies of electric utilities, of the credit card companies, of the joblessness. That we will see a president who steps up and continues to say, we are not going to shirk away from the challenges of our time, because that's not what Americans do. We step up, we figure out a way to innovate, to outcompete, and to give the American people a kind of politics that they deserve. That's what brought many of us into politics for the first time, like many of the freshmen who've been speaking tonight. And we are not satisfied yet with the change, but we still believe it is possible. We are looking for everyone to come together, Congress and White House, Republican and Democrat, and all the American people throughout this country, to dare to believe that that hunger we have for change and for hope can translate into real results, including a reinvention of America's competitive advantage that helps restore the strength of that middle class, that understands that 2/3 of our job growth comes from small and medium-sized business, that gets lending going again, that gets job creation going again, and moves us from awarding speculation on Wall Street to job creation on Main Street. I thank my colleagues tonight for joining with us on the eve of this State of the Union address, and with that I yield back.